I'm Andy. I teach mythology and folklore, and this is Tantalizing Myths. We resume the myths of Prometheus. So far, he took Zeus's side in the Civil War against the Titans, and he created mankind out of clay. Now, just because he joined Zeus's side didn't mean he was actually on Zeus's side. There's really not much in the way of loyalty between the two, though I'll say Prometheus started it. Prometheus gave Zeus a raw deal. This is the time of animal sacrifices, and the pieces of a bull were cut up so one portion was to go to the gods and the other to men. Prometheus did the butchering so that one bag contained all the flesh, but this he concealed beneath the stomach, which is the least tempting part of any animal, and the other contained the bones, hidden beneath a rich layer of fat. Alright, so Prometheus is pulling a bait and switch. Accounts differ on how this goes down. First is that Prometheus is super clever and that Zeus, easily deceived, chose the bag containing the bones and fat. I find this one hard to believe, frankly. Sure, Prometheus is smart, but Zeus isn't a dummy. We'll go deeper into this another time, but Zeus led a rebellion against his father Kronos. Several other myths also point to Zeus being very clever. Most often, he is the one doing the fooling. The other account, from Hesiod, constantly calls out how wise Zeus is. In fact, Hesiod insists, "But Zeus, whose wisdom is everlasting, saw and failed not to perceive the trick, and in his heart he thought mischief against mortal men, which also was to be fulfilled." So Zeus knows about the trick, but chooses to fall for it, because he wants to hurt people. I kind of get it. There's an inherent contradiction. There's an all-wise being out there, and yet people are suffering. The short answer is that this all-knowing entity wants people to suffer, so Prometheus tricking Zeus is the pretext necessary to make it happen. It's knowing what Prometheus is trying to pull and going, "Oh no, you tricked me. I must punish people because of your trickery." Wink. Now, the reason I have trouble with this rendition of the story is Hesiod's ascribed motive. Hesiod, well, he's dark. He's pessimistic AF. Everything is doom and gloom. The gods only want to inflict suffering on people. Women are the cause of suffering. We work, get sick, grow old, and die. That is your short introduction to Hesiod. Every time he mentions Zeus, he describes Zeus as all-wise, and then in the next breath, Zeus wants the suffering of humanity and so inflicts plagues and women on mankind. It feels simplistic as far as motives go. Hesiod, in his dark, dark place where all life is pain and the world is effed up, can't conceive of any idea other than Zeus wanting to be cruel for why life is hard. Which one is right? I think it's somewhere in the middle. Prometheus' trick is just not sophisticated enough to fool most people and makes Zeus look like a complete moron, hardly fitting of the clever god we will see later in this myth, as well as in other stories. Likewise, Zeus wanting to be infinitely cruel while being all-wise is also a complete contradiction in terms. I think Hesiod's idea that Zeus saw through the trick is valid, but we have to scale back on Hesiod's motive because his personal bias against, well, everything is too pervasive. That will leave us having to reason out Zeus's motive later, but at least we're not dealing with two completely unrelated extremes. A moronic Zeus who's as stupid as Prometheus, and a heartless evil Zeus. Now, having been tricked, one would think that Zeus is going to open up a thunderbolt on Prometheus' ass, especially since Prometheus was supposed to be an ally of Zeus. Instead, he turns his punishment against mankind and withholds fire from mankind. "Let them eat their flesh raw," he cried. Prometheus in this story is definitely a trickster, obviously for what he does to Zeus. Trickster gods quite often are seen as benefactors to humanity. See Raven, Coyote, Odin, and even Loki to an extent. A case could even be made for the serpent in the Garden of Eden. However, they rarely escape punishment. And while Prometheus has some coming, he has full plot armor that ricochets the thunderbolt onto humanity, setting him up for his bigger trick, stealing fire. Next in this tantalizing series, we'll talk about why fire is such a big deal.